Hello, everybody. Welcome to Never Explain, the other science comedy game show, podcast game show. My name's Steve Cross. That was a big start, I thought. My name's Steve Cross. I'm here with two incredible teams and one scorer who is beyond incredible. So far beyond incredible, she's popped into another dimension where things start at incredible and work up from there, and is feeling a little bit left behind because in there they've got multiple levels of infinite incredible folded in upon itself. Call it Cantor's goodness. There was going to be a pun and then I didn't know what it was going to be. Today's game show is all about proving who is the funniest sciencey people in the world. And we've got two wonderful teams. But before we hear from our wonderful teams, I'm going to go over to our scorer. We're going to metaphorically and literally fly to Wales to find out how Jones the Maths is doing. Jones, how's your week been?
It's been okay. It's been very rainy in Wales, so it's been very damp. But I did go kayaking yesterday and I jumped in the sea.
Hang on, you went swimming?
All of this is too much.
I mean, I mostly jumped in just for a wee.
Plumbing in Wales, notoriously bad.
Yeah. But
is that why we don't have any blue flag beaches over there anymore?
Sarah.
Good fact from Dave there. But Sarah, can you just put down a point for Wales for not having any blue flag beaches, whatever the fuck they are? This is some outdoorsy nonsense straight away. Brilliant. Stay indoors, friends. Stay indoors. Let's find out who our wonderful teams are. We're going to start with Team Terrible Lizards, and we're going to start with Izzy because I know who Izzy is. Izzy.
I made a sign.
Can you tell our wonderful visitors your science and comedy credentials? Izzy Lawrence, go.
Well, I have a degree in science, but that science is geography. Shut up, it counts. Also, I am technically history presentary type person. I do the British Museum membercast and do Radio 4's Making History. And I do a podcast with Dave called Terrible Lizards, which is all about dinosaurs. I also write kids' books as well. But there we go. That is me. Thank you.
Fantastic. That's the most advert-heavy introduction I've ever heard in my life. Any of you who don't know Izzy, do be reassured that she can have a normal conversation that isn't just a list of adverts. But let's go over to Izzy's teammate, Dave. Dave, who are you? How did you get in?
Hello, I'm Dave Hone. I'm a paleontologist at Queen Mary University in London. I do a podcast with Izzy Lawrence called Terrible Lizards.
Yes.
And that's how I ended up here.
Paleontologists, those are the people who study like the Romans and stuff, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And human history and the origins of man, and definitely not extinct life.
Good, right. That was me reverse trolling archaeologists.
Yeah.
I just thought it was time that somebody did it backwards. Right, that is Team Terrible Lizards. And let's find out our other team. We're going to start with Brian Mackenwells. Brian. Who are you? Tell these people.
My name's Brian Mackenwells. I have no science credentials to speak of. I have a 15-year-old theoretical physics degree that I can't remember. Comedy credentials, I co-wrote a podcast, audio drama science comedy podcast for 5 years. And
what's it called? Learn from Izzy. Advertise.
Oh, yeah. I did make a sign. Action Science Theatre is what it's called. And done various bits of stand-up as well. And my most recent thing is doing an episode for the Boring Talks on BBC Sounds about pencils.
Amazing, everybody. I mean, I want every listener out there to go and listen to the Boring Talks, but make sure you listen to episode 1 first, because episode 1 is me. Brilliant. Let's go over to Brian's teammate, Charvy. Charvy, who are you? How did you, what?
Yes. So the person in the YouTube chat asking about physicists. So I'm a biologist, and a physicist once told me that scientists who can't do maths become biologists. So I am officially a scientist who can't do maths. And I spent about 3 years of my life studying 2 inches of brain tissue above your left ear. And then I got a bit bored, and then I looked at the rest of the brain for a bit. And now I work in getting other researchers to tell the world about the science they do. And I too have done a boring talk. I've done 2 boring talks. I did a boring talk which was about a comparison of swearing in Hindi versus English.
Yes.
Which is very, very sweary. It's definitely not suitable for children.
No.
It meant I had to have a conversation with my mum, which was things like, Amma, what do you call a vagina in Hindi? Which is a very uncomfortable conversation.
I'm
But
surprised she didn't have that conversation with you any earlier in your life. To
amazingly,
be honest.
no, but the answer to that was, well, I call it a shame.
Wow.
But this is generally, as in sit properly, I can almost see your shame.
Double
Right.
shame.
Yes.
I'm more like, let's not judge other cultures.
What's your
It's kind of
single
your
shame?
culture, so you're allowed to.
What's a shame?
So I've got some news for all of you. I recently had the part of the brain that Charvy used to study removed. You can see the scar here.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
to make me less biased in this game, just so that I don't give any points accidentally. Let's deal with the points from that. Sarah, can you give Oxford a point for Charvy not being a physicist? And can you take a point off Oxford for its terrible recruitment rate from state schools? Thank you. Let's move on. So the way this game works is I ask all of our players questions, they answer them, and every time they say something that makes me laugh or would make me laugh, if I wasn't worried about interrupting the brilliant things they're saying, there will be a noise. And that noise is a point. Could you hear that all right, Sarah?
Yes, I could.
Good, right. Well, the rest of you don't need to. Sarah has to. She's the scorer. You're not allowed to score yourself on the side and then argue with her about how many points she's written down.
If only we had a secret button.
The Long Island iced tea is part of the process. So round one, I've asked all of our players to work out for me what scientific thing they're most scared of and why. I'm going to start by going to Brian. Brian, what scientific thing are you most scared of and why?
Well, I think the most insidious force in all of STEM is the celebrity constant pi. Crops us suspiciously across the ST, the T, the E, and the M, which makes it sort of responsible for the whole acronym, which would be enough to damn it entirely. But it sort of appears at random to trip you up like a piece of Lego in a carpet. Like you'll be just casually trying to find the area of a shaded circle, and then boom, there is all of a sudden you're faced with like the concept of it and like uncaring eternity. You then have to deal with because it is an infinitely long constant. But something that appears so ubiquitously in everything must be up to something. So I combed through the first 200 million digits of pi. This is actually true to find a pattern, to find proof that it is up to something. And I found, right, at position 128,461,062 is the sequence 8181818181. Convert into letters is ha 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 ha, which is obviously suspicious. Pi is laughing directly at us, which is why I am scared of pi.
Amazing. Big round of applause for Brian, please. Brian, of course, there has accidentally discovered Hitler's initials over and over again in pi. Secret coded message coming from the University of Oxford. Fantastic. Well done, Brian. Thank you. Let's fly straight over to Dave. Dave, tell me, what thing in science are you scared of and why?
I hate being asked questions that I really don't know the answer to, because obviously it's just horribly intimidating when you're supposed to be an expert and you can't do it. And it's generally worse when you're doing this, when you're doing live radio or TV, which I've done, and then you get a question which is usually ludicrously off topic and miles away from your area of expertise, sprung on you by some errant researcher who's written down some random thing that they pulled off some random website. It is obviously untrue, but you can't really embarrass the presenter by pointing that out, which is a bad start. And possibly that's worse in the sense that there's usually a massive audience, but then just as bad is in a classroom when a student asks you something that you just don't know the answer to. And you don't want to admit that you're giving a lecture on a subject that you don't know that much about.
Because the person who's supposed to give it is on sabbatical this year.
Yes, a colleague of mine who I will not name and shame claims that the correct answer to this is, my God, don't you know that by now? Oh. And I've never had the guts to try and pull that off in a real class.
That's more of a UCL thing to do than a QMUL
thing. Well, he says it works, but I haven't tried it.
Amazing. Big round of applause for Dave, please. Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. Brian, question from the YouTube chat. What brand of pencil are you waving?
It's a craft design technology pencil. It's Japanese made, very nice, personal favorite.
Okay. It makes you write better. Like your poetry comes out better when you use a pencil. Right, let's move over to Charvy. Charvy, tell me, what thing in science are you most scared of and why?
So I really hate lab coats. I really hate lab coats because the whole idea of lab coats is, right, that you're working with something really dangerous. Let's say you're working with sulfuric acid, okay? So there's a high percentage, if this thing gets on your skin, it will eat through your skin and burn it. And so what do scientists do? They're like, well, here's a piece of cloth to protect you. This is the protection you get, a lab coat. And I feel like this is sort of a broad metaphor for academia. So it's like, are you worried about sulfuric acid eating through your skin? Here's a piece of fabric. Are you worried about being stuck in a long line of short-term contracts and having no long-term stability? Well, here's a PhD. And it just feels like, it encapsulates a whole lot of problems with science. And I also really hate that lab coats are also sort of the emblem of science. So if you ever see a sort of TV scientist, it's a man in a lab coat, and it is invariably a man in a lab coat. Even though, usually it's someone who's working on a computer. It's a physicist. What do they need lab coats for? I mean, at least it'll, protect them from coffee spills. So yeah, lab coats. Lab coats are what's everything that's wrong with science.
Amazing. Big round of applause for Charvy, please. I mean, I didn't work in a lab for very long, but the thing I mainly learned was that if you listed the 10 most noxious things in the lab, 6 of them would be people's lab coats. It's a place where poisons gather rather than a way of protecting you from anything. I once spilled, what was it? What's that gel that's really nasty until it becomes a gel and then it's safe? I spilled that down all the front of mine and it made it totally waterproof. Everything just spilled off it, but it also might have caused long-term nerve damage. We don't know.
No.
Acrylamide, that was it. Spilled acrylamide down the front before it had polymerized. I used to have a lab coat that was specially just for working in human cell culture, and you weren't allowed to take your cell culture lab coats in any other bit of the building. So my cell culture lab coat, in big letters, I'd written on the arm in permanent marker, Steve, if you're wearing this lab coat and you're not in cell culture, you fucked up. Go and put it back. Because it was better than having like a little mark or something to tell you it was that one. Mine was unsubtle. Also, no one ever used it. No one ever borrowed it. Let's fly over to Iszi Lawrence in West London to find out what she is most scared of.
Just because I can't afford London. Yes, I'm most scared, I think, of ideas that stick around for too long and aren't disproved because nobody can be bothered to recheck the facts. And my favourite of all of these is Spermist Theory, which lasted way too long. Because what happened was the guy who discovered sperm, and yes, it was discovered, he looked at it through his microscopes, and he claimed to be able to see in each tiny sperm head a little homunculus. So inside every single sperm was a tiny human, and that, like, perfect as well, and that made total sense to all of these blokes, because all it meant was that inside every sperm was a little human that then got implanted in some sort of empty vessel that might squidge it a bit to give it a similar face. But that meant that each sperm with the human in had a sperm with more tiny humans in, and each of those sperm had more sperms with tiny humans in each. And the church loved it, because it proved that in the Garden of Eden, Adam had the entire whole host of humanity in his nutsack. That is the beauty of, so they were so happy with this idea, and it took them 90 years to have another look at sperm and realise there aren't tiny humans in them. But it was still like another 200 years before they worked out that, sperm, eggs, women involved somehow. But there we go. So that's what I really hate, is I hate stupid ideas that last around too long. And I also have a pencil fact. If you're writing a diary and want it to last forever, pencil is the way to go. But this is a 2B, one on HB. Write your diaries in HB, just don't let anybody with a rubber near them. There you go.
Round of applause for Iszi Lawrence, please. Sarah, can we take 2 points off Terrible Lizards for Izzy doing 2.5 minutes out of her standard 20?
Yeah.
Put it down.
Me, write your answers in advance. Izzy, I wrote this answer in advance 10 years ago. Marvelous.
3 years.
Right.
3 years.
Marvelous. Good. Right, let's fly over to Wales now and we'll find out how the scores are going from Jones the Maths, the greatest numbers brain in the world.
Well, Terrible Lizards currently trailing behind, unfortunately, on 8 points.
8 points. That's tough. All those points off for doing your normal material there.
But Oxford steaming ahead as they usually do with their extreme privilege on 14.
Yeah, 14 points. Round of applause for Oxford. I know they bought 6 of those points using massive endowments. Let's move on into round 2. Now, round 2, as ever, is Great Lists of Science. I'm going to give our teams the title of a PowerPoint slide, and all I want to know is what are bullet points that would be on that slide. Players, jump in whenever you've got an interesting one. Don't do like 5 in a row because it's hard for other people to tell when you're about to say one because we're on Zoom, and lots of the normal ways that you would indicate to someone that you're about to say something don't work. So give people a tiny pause, but don't leave like 5 seconds of dead air, all trying to be polite. So friends, the first one of these that I want you to chime in with examples is questions no student was expecting at the admissions interview.
I have got the algorithm ready, so what's your postcode?
To help improve this process for next year, could you point out which of these images have traffic lights in them?
Welcome to geography. What's your favourite colour?
Or favourite colour pencil?
Yeah. Welcome to English. Would you like fries with that?
I'm not having like science-based bullying of other subjects from someone who hasn't even got a fucking science degree.
I've got a science degree!
Coming players!
Hypothetically, how could you see this course helping you in a career of fruit picking?
If you had... Oh, sorry.
Oh, go on. You go first.
Thank you. If you
Point
had...
for Charvy for manners.
And not for you for interrupting me. If you had to choose, would you rather fight a tiger or a bear? Okay, then it's the second door.
Welcome.
I'll say the first half has been a never explained question. Charvy.
Okay.
Welcome to your biology degree. Are you any good at maths?
Welcome to physics. What other than gravity pulled you here?
Ooh,
Sorry, my fingers.
how much I enjoyed that.
You didn't get
Of
one for that.
course, of course. I mean, you know.
Wait, I've got this.
Thank you. Welcome to business management and yoga. How far are you on the way to shoving your head up your own arse? There you go.
Am I counting drum rolls as points?
No. God, no. Yeah, friends, questions no student was expecting at the admissions interview. We're all done, right? Good.
No, we're not. Dave's got a really good one.
No, I don't.
You do.
You do it.
No, Dave, no.
Dave's got a very good one. You do it. Dave.
No, it's your gag. You do it.
Did you write it, Izzy, and give it to him?
No, I didn't. He wrote it, but I might have
Made it much
tweaked
better.
it.
What is it?
Okay, it is. Okay. Welcome to futurology. Where do you see yourself in 500 years' time? That was a big build up for nothing. And then a harder question for you, for futurologists. Where do you see yourself in 5 months' time?
I was a professional futurologist for 6 months. It's actually quite an interesting way of looking at the world. There are many different...
How much did you get right?
I didn't make any predictions. The first rule of futurology, as written by the inventors of futurology, was no serious futurologist deals in predictions. Sarah, can we have an extra point for Charvy for how bad I am at maths, despite being a biologist? When I did biology at university, they realized too many biologists were failing the basic science maths course. So they set up a thick maths course called Elementary Maths for Biologists. And I got a fucking third in that. I scraped a third in Elementary Maths for Biologists. I am the ultimate biologist. Friends, looking at Dave here. Friends, your second great list of science is Tannoy announcements at Jurassic Park.
We are discontinuing the competition to name dinosaurs following Tyrannosaur McTyrannosaur face, Brachiosaurus McBrachiosaur face, and Stegosaurus McStegosaur face.
Yeah, and then the fucking government renamed them all David Attenborough.
But the Jurassic Park would still take credit for all of that engagement. We're sorry to announce that we've had to cancel the Clever Girl STEM Club as that area is too full of predators.
Ah, nice. 5 p.m. ping pong.
Friends, join us for Never Explain Late. It's £100 a ticket, where Brian and I tell you who all the worst predators in are.
5 p.m. ping pong with the T-Rex will take place by the swimming pool.
I don't get it, but someone did, and that's why you got a point.
Excellent.
The dinosaur lamp is now live. Would all visitors please put on the lab coat?
Can paleontologists please refrain from gluing feathers to the velociraptors? Please.
No.
No, I went twice.
A new booth has just opened at the gift shop selling hand-knitted jumpers with a Welsh wool. We encourage you to try Sarah's tops.
Ooh,
I like. It's up to you there.
That deserved
an extra bonus one if you want.
That was good.
You can give him an extra one if you don't mind that. Just racial.
I'm going to give it to him just out of narcissism. Just love being mentioned.
That's a good arena, Debbie.
I like to include people.
Sheep jokes are very ethnically insensitive about the Welsh. That Brian.
Please can visitors stop pointing out the obvious, but Late Cretaceous Park wouldn't fit on the sign.
For any creationists who've come to the park.
Any more, friends?
Please, can you stop hanging your coats on the Triceratops?
That's what it's best for. Brilliant. Right, that was Tannoy announcements at Jurassic Park. So we're now going on to our final great list of science, which is presents for university scientists going back to work after their summer holidays.
A work-life balance.
Antidepressants.
Damn, that was my second one.
But the real scientists.
To go with your hand sanitizer, some mind sanitizer.
I got you this.
Go on.
I got you this spurious connection to COVID because that's the only way we're getting funding. It'll go really well with that connection to anti-terrorism I got you in 2000.
Phenomenal. There's been some amazingly bad funding recently.
Have you got something to connect to climate change?
UKRI investigating the effects of COVID on BAME people, but they only funded white people to do the research. It's like nothing says this is the UK's official research funder more than that. Keep them coming.
A t-shirt that says it's already in the syllabus.
An active diary saying 2020 best year ever.
A virtual backdrop of your overhead projector fucking up.
I got you this moment of clarity that allows you just to delete those unread emails.
If people really care, they'll send them again.
Yeah.
No, you go.
A selection of gifts from the Terrible Lizard's Redbubble page.
Oh God.
Find the sign up. Got to try.
I'm actually giving you a point for advertising properly. I have so many people on here who can't market. Like the whole reason they've come on is to promote their podcast, and they go, and I have a podcast, and they stop.
An elbow sharpener. That's a bit of internal department politics, but
Quite a lot of university scientists are already very upper middle class people, privately
This is
educated.
true.
They don't need any of that shit.
fair enough. How about a mask to put on the back of your head to protect yourself from PhD students?
It's usually the other way around that needs protection.
Yes.
I'm very blasé about this. I apologise to people who are affected in person. It's just I have helped so many people who are affected in person. After a while, you get essentially like shell shock, but for harassment of young people. Any more presents for university scientists going back to work after their summer holidays?
Just a good one for physicists, an empty box and a cat collar. No, okay.
Why is that good for physicists?
Well, it's Schrodinger's cat, isn't it?
There's
Isn't
no
that
cat
physics?
there. It's just a collar. It has to be
I
a
know,
live
but-
cat or a dead cat. That's the.
Well, or a
Where
vial of poison, that would be
You've
useful.
missed the main.
Yeah.
Schrodinger's experiment is the cat invisible?
No, but it's you can I'm not going to supply you with a cat, Steve. That's dangerous. I'm not going to be that person, but I'll supply you with the rest of the experiments, apart from the poison. I forgot the poison.
Yeah, in the box.
I said the box.
So you don't need a collar. You're just going to put the cat in the box. Why don't you need a collar as well?
Well, I think
one's
if
gonna
you have
look
a
at
little
the
bell
box,
attachment
is
to
it?
it, you could hear it through the box and know if it was still breathing.
Yeah, but then you'd know if it's alive or
This is
dead.
Exactly. But why could that? It never made any. Surely, if you put a cat in a box, they scream anyway. So it's a pointless experiment.
Don't they get into a box themselves? Isn't that half of the internet?
Ooh.
Right, that's quite enough of that. Any more presents for university scientists?
A new job.
Well, at the current rate, a job.
University scientists, if you're thinking, fuck it, I'll go into science communication. No, fuck off. I need work.
How about a list of
Four
evil
science
billionaires?
communicators out on the streets. We don't need you poxy, useless. Go back to doing PCRs or whatever it is you do. Brilliant. Let's find out how the scores are at the end of round 2 as we zip over to the sheep-filled land of Wales. To Sarah Jones, who was showing us sheep outside the window earlier. That's how we know she's in Wales. Sarah Jones, what's happening with the numbers?
Well, terrible lizards have used their tiny little T-Rex claws to claw their way all the way back up to 30.
Oh, pretty impressive. 30 after 2 rounds.
Very excited, guys.
Oxford relentlessly achieving, in spite of the fact that I extremely dislike Oxford because my ex-boyfriend is now a lecturer there,
Oh,
and they're
Oh.
on 34.
Sarah, just a few adjustments. Can we have a point off Oxford for your ex-boyfriend being a lecturer there? And a point off Oxford for Boris Johnson, and a point off Oxford for David Cameron, and a point off Oxford for George Osborne. Thanks.
I mean, you left
On a
that in there.
shocking
I'm impressed,
treating
Steve.
Ian.
I think that's very fair of you.
No, Sarah, I took 4 off. 3 politicians and 1 ex-boyfriend. I know that David Cameron and George Osborne are the same person, so you thought I just said the same thing over and over and over again. 30 all.
Is one of them my ex-boyfriend?
Yes. Yeah, right. Let's move on. So we're moving on to round 3 now, friends. We're going in the reverse order that we did for round 1. And the question is this. The world's ending. You've got 5 minutes. What are you going to do? I thought I'd deliver it in the correct way.
Yeah.
You got 5 minutes before everything's eradicated. What are you doing?
Okay, I might live out in the sticks, but I live very close to the Thames. So what I would do, as I would be shitting myself, I would go to the Thames and I'll find out if wiping your arse on a goose's neck really is the best form of wiping your bottom, because that's always intrigued me since I was a little kid.
I just love you arriving at the pearly gates. You're like, I know one thing.
Just holding in one.
Tell me one interesting, because St. Peter fucking loves QI. He's like, tell me one interesting fact, and I'll let you into heaven, and you go, well.
I'll go, Francis Rabelais was right.
That's absolutely wonderful. Let's go over to Charvy. Charvy, tell me. The world's ending. We've got 5 minutes. What are we going to do?
I'm going to bake sourdough bread.
Ooh.
that is now the accepted middle class way of dealing with a sense of impending doom. So if you ever thought like making tea was far too useful and it happened quickly, and at the end of it, you had something which was actually nice, then baking sourdough bread is the right thing to do. So I baked sourdough bread all through lockdown, and I thought that I was getting better, but it was actually just my taste buds dying sequentially. And making your own sourdough bread, especially at the end of the world, it makes you appreciate all the nice things about the world, such as the existence of shops where you can go pay money, and people who can actually bake bread will sell it to you for a reasonable price. And who here has actually baked their own bread, sourdough or otherwise? Has anyone actually done it? Okay, so this is
so middle class.
Oh my God, this is such a middle class set of performers, certainly. But what else would you expect with Oxford's here?
Better than middle class.
Well, some of it's in the spire, but there's something that happens which is called oven spring. So oven spring is when you put your bread in the oven and it goes boing. And the reason that this happens is that the yeast goes into the oven. It goes, oh, it's quite nice and warm. And then there's a sort of giant yeast orgy before they die a sort of flaming death as they realize that they're in the oven, which is all very appropriate for the end of the world. So that's what I do. I'd bake sourdough bread. I'd never get to eat it, but I'd
No. I mean, fantastic that you've got 5 minutes left. You'll get through 0.001% of the process of making sourdough bread. Phenomenal.
To bake anyway.
No, or maybe the Earth's so polite, it'll be like, wait, oh, you're right. We'll just wait for Charvy to finish. And what? It'd probably take 3 weeks.
I mean, it might be.
Process.
And all the time, Izzy's standing there with a swan.
And angry. They're snakes with wings. They're just snakes with wings. But what if the world ended in a lava situation? You could not. I'm not making a lava bread joke, but you could actually cook it on the actual like Earth's own destruction and a fiery death, which is amazing.
Which is amazing. The only thing
that point was for Brian to make up for Izzy's cultural insensitivity.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I missed how, but I'll still take it. I'm Oxford. I'm not proud.
Wait, is lava bread not Irish? Is it
No,
Welsh?
it's Welsh.
I've never heard of it.
So,
It's Welsh. And it wasn't insensitivity. I said I wasn't going to make a lava bread pun. And
point
I
to
didn't.
Sarah Jones for Izzy's cultural insensitivity.
Yes.
Take that point back off, Brian.
Ah.
Because he might be from the Welsh windbreak, but the Welsh windbreak doesn't work enough. That's why Wales gets so much rain dumped on it. Where in Ireland are you from, Brian?
I'm from Dublin.
Oh, so you're British.
The one
What do the rest of Ireland call people from Dublin?
Sir.
I think West Brits is the technical term, isn't it?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Well, he wouldn't. He's in England, so.
Yeah, he's even more British now. Who am I going to next? Dave, with your lovely headphones. Dave. World's ending. We've got 5 minutes. What are you going to do?
I mean, my first question is, how sure are we it's ending? Because my real plan is to write some very cathartic emails to people because I'm British and so I can't tell them what I think
It's
of them really.
definitely ending.
Okay, good. Then I'll definitely write the emails.
I love it. No one will have time to read them. But
I said cathartic. I didn't say useful. I'll feel better.
They arrive at the pearly gates, and St. Peter's like, before you come in, you've got to clear your
By
inbox.
the way, check your text messages.
You only get into heaven on inbox 0. Purgatory is literally having to go through your Outlook, clean the whole bloody thing. Then you would have your revenge. That's a wonderful answer. Have an extra point as well. In fact, have one more because I really liked it. And we're going to go over to Brian now. Who's recovering from me getting Wales and Ireland confused. And we'll see what he's going to do. Brian, the world's ending. You've got 5 minutes. What are you going to do?
Oh, mine is kind of connected to what you were just talking about because I'd like to die the way I lived. And this seems a unique opportunity to use this situation to create, like, to do it in the most pure way possible, and that is sending emails to academics that they never read. Right? I could send out a lot of emails, and I know they're not going to read it or reply. And this is the perfect. It's like the perfect time to do that. I'll get so many not replies.
Perfect time for an all staff as well. Send it
Yeah.
out. There isn't
Yeah.
time for all the pedantic people saying this wasn't the correct use of an all staff. Yeah, bang them out. Yeah, brilliant. Right, thank you very much, Brian. So I think we've heard from everybody. So we've got one round left, which we'll come to in a second. But before that, we've got to go to the professor of adding, Jones the Maths, who I can see is still doing maths. So I'll keep introducing her for a bit longer.
It's all right. I'm done now.
Right.
So, still unfortunately a little bit behind on 40.
Even after you took all their points off.
But you'll be absolutely thrilled to hear that Oxford have used their connections to bring themselves back up to Pedro Dig Pimp.
Yeah! All numbers with 5s in Welsh are the best. I am a
Pedwar Pimp. Yeah, Pedwar Pimp. Yeah, nice.
Point off Izzy for doubting your Welsh pronunciation. With you being actually Welsh.
I'm always 39 anyway, so it's fine.
There's a lot of score correction going on in this episode. I think this is my new thing.
I like it.
Izzy says, is there a microphone resistant to oven heat? Probably. Not a standard one. So we've got our final round. It's our bonus round. Today's bonus round. If you've tuned in before, you'll know that the bonus round's always a treat. In previous years, previous episodes, it's been who would win in a fight between, who would you have sex with out of the following. And today we are proving theories. So I've given each of our competitors a theory, and they have to absolutely prove using comedy and facts and argument that the theory that they've been given is true. So nobody's allowed to butt in. I just want to hear your complex and detailed argument that proves that this is true. We're going to start with Izzy Lawrence. Izzy, can you please provide the evidence for your theory that the Earth is flat?
Now, what we have to remember is that due to climate change, due to our own presence on Earth, I think we can all announce that the world cannot anymore be natural. Okay? And I've seen pictures of the Earth from space, and that looks round, therefore it can't have any points, therefore it cannot be sharp, and therefore the only other musicality that Earth can have is being flat.
Complex.
Thanks.
Not as long I was hoping, but complex.
Oh, so
no,
you didn't tell me how long to make
no,
it.
it's
You just
fine.
tell me to make it good, and that's what
It's
it is.
fine. No, it was.
Thank you.
It was. So now we're going to go over to Charvy, and this is my favorite conspiracy theory that you'll be proving. I'm a member of the Facebook group. I've got the T-shirt. Charvy, prove that birds aren't real.
Birds definitely aren't real because, I mean, let's face it, the most interaction that most of us have with the so-called birds is that they crap on you. So you're basically offered an explanation for this meteorological phenomena that occasionally shit falls out of the sky, and you're told, oh, that's birds. It's not. There's no such thing. And occasionally you're sort of told that this shape far distant in the sky, that's a bird. That's another meteorological phenomenon. It's not real. It's not actually a bird. Oh yeah, and birds are actually a conspiracy by squirrels. I actually wrote it down in big. It's a conspiracy by squirrels. It's a conspiracy by squirrels to get you to put food out in the garden. And if you ever think that it's actually a bird which is coming to your bird feeder, it's not. It's a dressed up squirrel which has trained you to feed it. And one of the most ridiculous things about this whole idea of birds is that they're supposedly descended from dinosaurs. I mean, have you ever heard anything so ridiculous? So these giant stomping monsters magically got really small, and they acquired something called feathers, which is, it's not skin, it's not hair, it's this special in-between weird thing that you're supposed to believe in. And all of this just does not hang together. I mean, even as a conspiracy theory, it's a shit conspiracy theory. There are these tiny dinosaurs which shit at you on you from the sky, and you put out food for them. This is bonkers. This is clearly not true. I mean, whoever thought of this whole idea of birds was not working very hard. It's a conspiracy by squirrels. They're not real.
Brilliant. Round of applause to Charvy. See, Izzy, that's how you do it. You do it a bit longer. There's more space to get more points.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't
It's
think.
tactics. That's what.
Ah, well. I'm not in it to win it, Steve.
No, that you're in it to
I'm
advertise.
in it to prove
aren't you?
the world.
And
for
what
that.
is
Yeah.
it? What is it that you're advertising, Izzy?
I'm advertising Terrible Lizards. It's a brilliant podcast about how birds are dinosaurs. There you go. And it's got other facts in it too. It's wonderful. Dave's in it. And he's good.
Do check the YouTube chat where I've posted the link to the Facebook group Birds Aren't Real,
It's funny as hell.
which is a phenomenal thing. Who we got next? Dave. I want you to prove to me using evidence and arguments and comedy your theory that the Earth was created in 4004 BC.
This was extraordinarily timely when your email came through with that, because the funny thing is that I've recently started reading this book, and it actually starts in the beginning, so you know it's covering absolutely everything, and so that solves a lot of problems immediately. And 4004 BC turns out to be a really quite auspicious number in that regard, because if you look at all the people in this book, because it lists them one after the other and it says how old they are, so you can add up all their ages one at a time, and if you add all of them together and then subtract that from the current total now, it turns out that the book that starts in the beginning starts at about 4004 BC, I think on October the 23rd. So job done.
Amazing. Round of applause for Dave, please. Sarah, can we take 1 point off Dave for his assumption that people only have kids on their deathbed?
Not the assumption I made, it's the assumption of the book that I was reading.
No, that just listed how old everyone was. You're the one that tracked back, added all the numbers up and got to 4004 BC. Assuming that was all original work done by you and you didn't plagiarize it.
I didn't plagiarise it, but it turned out someone else had done the same
it's
thing.
your error, so it's your point off.
No, you've got to replicate studies, so I've merely copied the methodology of other people.
That's
to
a brilliant new
verify it.
term for plagiarism. Dave gets his point back and an extra one, because that was such a brilliant academic get out of a hole. Well, actually, within its own way, isn't plagiarism just replication? Phenomenal. Well, we're going over to Brian now. Brian, I need you to use every bit of evidence and comedy and argument skill at your that you have in your pencil case, because it's Brian, to prove to me your theory that the English are just better than the Irish.
Okay, right. So we have to think about what we mean by better, right? The better is how you're achieving against a certain set of goals, standard project management stuff. So the set of goals the country I've chosen is the national anthems, okay? Because that's a statement of purpose and intent. So for Ireland, it's Aaron Levine's Soldier Song. So and I've scored each country against the national anthem to see which one is better using these criteria. So like for instance, Soldier Song in Ireland has Soldiers Are We. So Irish people, we don't have much of a standing army because of all of our peace. It says some have come from a land beyond the wave as part of our national anthem, and it's more than some because of all of our prosperity and EU connections and open door. So we don't score very highly against that. And we also talk about cannons roaring, and no one uses cannons anymore. So it's kind of 0 out of 3 against that measurement. And for England, I chose Rule Britannia because according to the newspapers, it must be the national anthem. Otherwise, this whole thing that's happening in newspapers would be absurd and childish. It's absurd and childish. So this would be a really important song. So it says Britons will never be slaves. That's true. So 1 point for that, because you guys took everyone else's slaves first. So you got ahead of it, which is good. So that's 1 point for you. You're still more majestic. Shalt thou rise more dreadful? So yes, big tick. The more England gets bigger, the worse things get. So dreadful, yeah, tick. And then city shall with commerce shine. So as Britain leads the EU and environmental standards drop, the smog will make all the cities really like sparkle very nice. That's a big point for that. So that's like 3 points for Rule Britannia versus 0 points for Ireland. So
marvelous. Round of applause for Brian, please. Sarah, can we take 4 points off Brian, because the question was the English, and Rule Britannia is of course about the British.
No. Wait. No, I've watched the news a lot since Brexit, and those terms are used entirely interchangeably. It can mean Northern Ireland even as well. Like it like Scotland and Wales don't count when it comes to England, right?
Such deep semantics.
As an English person, I'm sure.
What happened to never explaining? Good, right. The 4 points are off. He's not having them back. Let's find out how we are doing. We've come all the way to the end of the game. This is very exciting. That means this is the big moment. That means this is the most important maths that Jones has done all week, other than trying to work out how she's paying me rent. And
Good question.
Fun facts for people who watch every week, who know all of our domestic situations. So we're going to fly over to Sarah now. Sarah, tell us, what are the big numbers right at the end?
Well, it's bad news for Terrible Lizards, who are only a few points ahead of where Oxford were in the previous round. On 14.
Well, I think, that's respectable. I think that's the most I've ever scored at this game.
But Oxford have absolutely...
Izzy, despite being a brilliant comedian with a massive database of knowledge, is surprisingly terrible at this game whenever we've done it. Whenever we've done it live, I'm like, Izzy will absolutely... I think she just plays down to the opposition. She's that kind of...
I'm just a lovely person.
Why have you only told me this now?
I thought she might have changed her ways, Dave. Also, you were meant to carry the team. Anyway, Sarah, tell us, how have the University of Oxford cheated their way to glory once again?
Well, to be fair to Terrible Lizards, they are doing better than both me on 1 point and the country of Wales also on 1 point. But Oxford have absolutely stormed it in with Pimp Dig Side.
Whoa! That is an absolute massacre of the kind that the Irish have witnessed so often at the hands of people who went to the University of Oxford.
Not to say the Indians. Don't forget about the Indians there.
Well, I just feel less safe. I don't have any Indian children, so I feel less safe doing jokes about it. Whereas every time I do a joke about Irish people, one of them will poo on me or wee on me. And that's the endless revenge that they get.
And if his kids aren't there, it has to be someone else.
Well, I've cleared up a lot of Irish shit today already, Right, so that has been the end of a wonderful game. Izzy, have you got anything else you'd like to advertise for all of our viewers?
Anything else?
Nothing at all. Actually, can you see the book back there? That's my book. There you go. I mean...
Wait, hold the book up. I'll put you on speaker view so that everybody can just see you and nothing else, and they can see
just
the book.
The book. Look, isn't it lovely? I wrote a book, people. That's hard to do, isn't it? It's called The Unstoppable Letty Peg. It's about a little girl who joins suffragettes and learns jiu-jitsu like they really did in history. And
brilliant. Right. Thank
you
you very much. Would anyone else like to advertise anything before we go?
Yeah, I would.
Yes.
I'm sure you're aware, Steve, the next year marks the 50th anniversary of decimalisation in the UK.
I was aware of that, weirdly, but go on.
And what I think is the number 10 has just had it too good for too long. So what I'd like to advertise is just the number 9.
Now,
exactly. And Cymraeg, now. Now is the time for now.
So remember that, friends. Next time you're buying a number, why not take a risk and choose the number 9? That was odd. Right, brilliant. Thank you all very much, friends. We're going to end all of this nonsense now. There's no show next week because everybody asked to perform, said they were busy. So we'll be back on the 10th of September. I'm not going to hustle and do it now. We'll be back on the 10th of September with some people who are better at their diaries than all of the people that I've been talking to over the last week. See you then. Do go and listen to Chaotic Adequate, where you can hear lots of my voice to fill in the gap while we're not doing one of these. Massive round of applause for all of our wonderful players. Thank you all so much for playing. You were all brilliant. And goodbye, lovely viewers all the way around everywhere that you are. Goodbye. I have ended the stream.